Hello, everyone. Welcome to Game Changers, the Future of Play, where we explore the intersection of gaming, technology, and the business of building great gaming experiences. I'm Toni Callahan here with my podcast team, Sarah Ramos. And today we are super excited to welcome Larry Kuperman, who is the VP of Business Development at Nightdive Studios and a longtime veteran of the computer games business. Larry has spent decades across publishing, licensing, and commercial strategy. And at Nightdive, he's helping bring classic games back to life for modern audiences, balancing preservation, technology, and market realities. Larry, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. When we're talking about new changes in the gaming industry or new trends, I will, of course, be representing the old trends in the.
I love it. I love it. And before we dive into those trends, I'd love to start with a little bit more of your path. You've spent years on the business side of games, and now you're leading business development at a studio known for reviving some of these iconic titles. So, kind of going back to the beginning, how did you first get into the games industry?
Well, so there's two parts to that. I will actually talk about the games that influenced me at some point a bit further on. But my journey in the games industry began with an email in the year 2000. It was the winter of 2000. I was living in Michigan, and I received an email, kind of spammy thing, um, that told me that Stardock Systems, located in Livonia, Michigan, was looking for a sales manager. And it went on to say Livonia, Michigan, where it's always sunny and 72 degrees. Um, I don't know if you've ever been to Michigan in December, but it is neither sunny nor 72 degrees. I like to say it was as cold as a landlord's heart. And I wrote back saying clearly there were two Livonias, the one that I knew in reality and their fantasy one. Well, one thing led to another, and Brad Wardell, Angie Marshall over at Stardock asked me to come in for an interview. And I had actually accepted recently another position for a sales company, traditional sales stuff, contact management and telephone work, and um, but I was excited about meeting people in the games industry, so I thought I would go over there. Maybe I could consult for them. One thing led to another, and I came out of there and told my wife at the time that as crazy as it was, I thought I would try this for a while, and that little while lasted for 11 years.
I love that. All from one email.
All for one email. And
With
if you ever get an email that says sunny and 72 degrees, apply for that job.
yes, that's pretty good advice. When you look back on your experiences, what do you think most shaped how you're approaching your role at Night Dive today?
The people that I worked with. I had a sales and a business background before I got into the gaming space. In fact, I was really hired to manage enterprise sales for Stardock, our direct skin and other products that would come along. So I had that background, but Brad Wardell was one of the people that taught me a lot about the industry. Um, and somebody that we have recently lost was also a tremendous mentor for me. Paul Crockett, who passed away on January 1st. Paul was most recently at Major League Baseball, but I knew him from his time at Take Two, and he really was a fantastic mentor for me. Um, if anyone is listening to this and trying to figure out how to make their way in the games industry, or my advice is really simple. Find somebody that knows what they're doing and learn as much as you can from them.
I think that's great advice. I think across all industries, but certainly with gaming, it's such a community-based industry, it seems like.
And it's contact driven, more so than most industries. We're perhaps smaller, but there's a core of us, especially in specialized areas like business development, that we all know each other.
Yeah, I love that. Well, now you are working at a time where player expectations and technology are evolving really quickly. And in this, you're kind of bringing back these classic games. So I wanted to ask you, what's one trend you're seeing right now and how studios are approaching, these established or kind of long-running games?
I think if I had one word to characterize how I see the landscape now, it's excitement. When I started doing retro stuff, and that goes back even before my time at Nightdive, when that goes back to my time at Stardock, when we were looking to add games to our Impulse platform, and we talked about classic games, the big companies were like, "Why do you want these games? They're old." And there has been a revelation that you have classic IPs that you own that you can either build on or remaster, remake, and you already own the IP, so the costs are lower. There's less negotiation involved with it, and you have a sense of what the target that you're trying to hit is. So I think overall, if I had one word to describe it, it would be excitement that people are realizing that they're sitting on gold mines.
I love that. It's very special.
So
What do
fun.
you what do you think about, are you ever finding yourself trying to balance with what made a game special originally with what players are expecting today? Because it's a very different world today than when that game was popular the first time.
All the time. I mean, that is a constant day-to-day thought process that we have. How you balance those things. Um, the I think that in trying to give an answer of how you do that, I mean, we have a mantra that a night dive title should play the way you remember it play. Now, you may have been playing the game on your 14 or 15-inch monitor and with a 1 megabyte, no, I didn't misspeak, a 1 megabyte video, graphics. But but we want to evoke that same feeling, that same nostalgia that you had from the original game. And just by being true to that, that seems to have helped us find the path on that.
I love that. The nostalgia, I feel like, is the key word there, where when people log into it, they still feel that same warm, fuzzy feeling on the inside. I love that.
Well,
Yeah.
we talk about our audience and our demographics, and there are really two separate areas. There are people that played the game the first time, and there are our core audience. They're very often our evangelists. They're the people that have really strong feelings about the title. Um, but then there's another group that only knows the games through reputation, and are anxious to experience them the first time. And we want to make sure that their experience is a positive one. And there's some minutiae on that. Let me give you an example of from one of our oldest titles. When we remastered Turok, the original game, the developers had a challenge, which was that the hardware was limited. They wanted to have a high degree of detail. So how do you do that within the limitations of the hardware? Well, you minimize draw distance. So the game was characterized by its fog. You couldn't see very far, but what you could see was gorgeous in detail. Well, today's hardware, of course, can support longer draw distances with that same graphic fidelity. In fact, there's nothing that you're going to find in Turok that's going to stress out your video card today. Um, but that being said, what we did was when you first the default version of it has no fog or a very limited fog. But for the purists out there, you can toggle that on. So it's kind of a best of both
Hmm.
worlds approach. The person coming and playing it right out of the box is going to have an experience that's geared towards them. The person that says, "Wait a minute, where's my fog? Oh, there it is. I'll just tick that box."
I love that. That certainly sounds like the perfect balance of kind of these classic and contemporary players all coming together in one game experience. So that's wonderful. And kind of as technology is continuing to evolve, AI is becoming a bigger deal. Where do you see either the biggest opportunity or maybe the biggest challenge working with these older games as things continue to change so quickly?
I'm going to give you a caveat and say I'm an old guy. I'm probably not the one that you want to have giving an opinion of what the game development scene will be like in 20 years from now, because I hope not to be part of it. Um, but that being said, we see limited uses right now that we can easily apply. Upresing a texture, adding more pixels. It's a necessary part of the job, but there's no artistry involved in it. There's no I upred I'm the Leonardo da Vinci, the Michelangelo of upresing textures. There's none of that. That's the kind of thing where AI can help and facilitate. Generative AI, which we're not using and has not been a part of any of our games, offers different challenges. I also teach at or lecture at the IGDA, and we recently had a great presentation on 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 how you begin to conceptualize games and the potential for AI there. And I know Sven over at Larian has said some things that I didn't think should have been considered controversial, but were. I think in that early ideation stage, there's possibilities there. As long as you understand that that's going to have the same relationship to the finished game as the gray box version that you would have done, just easier just to visualize. But beyond that, I really don't know.
I like that. Well, we're excited to see what happens too. So, things are moving pretty quick, so you never know.
I,
Um,
I I always do say excitement and terrified are are two sides of a coin. I was recently asked at CES, whether I thought that games would be made by AI, and I said, I just want you to understand when you talk about my feelings of AI, we're the company that publishes System Shock with Shodan, and I have no mouth and I must scream. Those are not positive AI experiences. Just wanted to put that out there. So,
yeah, I like that. I like that. And last question from me before we pivot into some shorter questions. For anyone, maybe a leader who's listening, what's one lesson from your experience that you think applies broadly across the industry that you would share?
um, game developers are weird people. And if you take that weirdness out of the equation, you lose some of what makes our game so special. You lose some of that magic. And if I had one word, one sentence to give to future leaders in this space, it's don't lose the magic.
Love that. Human touch.
I really like that. That was great. Before I jump into the rapid fire questions, I want to go back to the retro games piece that you were talking about with the fog and the no fog and how you can change it to fit, modern gamers. I'm thinking about the way that I think about retro games, right? And they're all static. This is your game. This is your cartridge. You play it, you win it, and you wait for the next one to come out, right? So how does that work with kind of bringing back an old title? Do you bring in like the more dynamic choose your world or add your weapons and things like that, or do you keep it true to its
Our
static form, I guess?
our 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 position on that has always been don't put a mustache on the Mona Lisa. There
Yeah.
was something that made it valuable in the first place. There have been, I don't know how many millions of analyses done about the Mona Lisa's smile, but you can't really quantify what makes that a masterwork. So don't go changing too much. It should always be true to the original art, and it should be recognizable. And anyone that has played the original game should be able to jump into a remake and a remaster and say, oh, yes, I understand where this came from. It's a very
That's
artsy
great.
answer, but I can't give you one. Change these three things, but not those six.
That makes perfect sense. It takes the kind of retro, like the nostalgia away from it, right? And thinking about the games I played as a kid with my brothers and I would want that to be different. If I played it again, I want to be taken back to that specific time and relive it, right?
We recently remastered one of my favorite titles, and it was the second time around. We had the source code this time. We could do what we really wanted the first time, and port it to console of the game Blood. Now it's Blood Refresh Supply, and I encourage people to play that or to take a look at that compared to the first game. What we did not change, game is the hardest, most frustrating first-person shooter that I've ever played. I will put it that way. We could have changed that. We could have made it easier. We could have dumbed it down. We didn't. And I've had the opportunity at places like PAX to watch people play our titles. I think my favorite thing, standing behind a row of people and watching them play any of our games, is when they all reach a point that they've lost their life, slam down the controller, mumble to themselves, then immediately pick it up and jump back in. Then you know you've done it right.
I love it. No, very good. But the question here is, do they get the controller and kind of shake it like when they're jumping or when they're moving? I used to do that a lot.
I still do.
Very good. All right, let's jump into those rapid fire questions. So I have 5 here. They're designed to be quick question, quick answer, but feel free to add some detail if you want to. First one,
I'm
what's
not
your
known for
favorite?
my thoughtfulness anyway, so let's go ahead.
Number 1, favorite video game or gaming memory. And you know what? Whichever one you choose, I'm still interested in your favorite video game. So
I'm going to give you a couple on there. The two games
okay.
that in the early days gave me truly visceral responses that I played in their original forms, when they first came out, and that I actually felt something physically. Wolfenstein 3D, that is the game that made me want to go into the gaming business. And Descent from Matt Toshlag, who was somebody that really helped me out in my career. I remember my stomach flipping in that game. It's a 6 Degrees of Freedom title, and I remember that. The game that I play, that I come back to and play more than any other title, and they are a partner of ours, but I was playing their games before that. I've been a pinball addict since I was a kid. And I just absolutely love the Zen pinball tables. Yes, I have an AT Games full-size pinball table that's digital in the other room. And at 5 o'clock, that table gets turned on.
Very cool. Does it have a theme? What's the theme of the pinball table?
They actually have done two tables based on ours. There's a System Shock table that I will hope to come out to the full size one, and already I can play the thing on there. So
Very cool. All right. Next question. One tool or technology that you can't live without, can be outside of gaming too.
online communities, and I know everyone talks about how terrible they are, about how awful they are. My partner at Nightdive, Steve Kick, was recently being interviewed by a reporter, and at the end of that interview, the reporter commented that one of the few reasons that they continue on social media is my posts, because I practice what I refer to as relentless positivism.
That's great. I love that answer. All right. Next question. Biggest trend in gaming that excites you right now?
The revelation that indies can make great games. That I would say, what last at least the last 4 years in a row, the top title has not been a AAA title. It's been from one of the indie developers, and I can't tell you how happy that makes me.
I love that. I love that. I feel like too, we're going to see so many more indie developers coming out, and it's going to be pretty rapid with technology.
And a lot of the people that are doing really, really great and creative things in the indie space are people that were laid off from the big companies. So just shows you can't kill us.
We keep coming back for more. Okay, what's one skill studio leaders will need much more of in the next 3 to 5 years?
Vision. There are going to be problems coming up that are going to require creative thinking for solutions that are going to really require. I mean, how is our industry going to be sustained? How do we move forward without losing some of the people that have gotten us here over the next 5, 6, 10 years? We really need people with vision and to create something that an industry that is sustainable.
Absolutely. Okay, final question. If you weren't building games, what would you be doing?
Teaching. No hesitation on that. There will come a time that I will put down my burdens in the gaming world, and I will go back to teaching. I have been lecturing. I've been a part of the International Games Developers Association for years. Um, it's it's what I can do best. It's probably the best way that I can contribute. To all you young kids out there, the good news is you won't have to learn from your own mistakes. You'll be able to learn from some of mine.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. And then really quickly before Toni closes out, you had showed us when we first got on the stickers that were on your laptop, and I need to see those again. I need you to tell us about those.
So just representing, some of them, the Remember Citadel is of course a reference to System Shock. Um, the Night Dive ones, the Atari ones are obvious. Some of the people that we've enjoyed working with, the teams over at Epic. So I have some good friends over there, and to Dave Oshry, and who's now started on a new part of his life's journey, and to everyone over at New Blood, much respect. You guys are just knocking it out of the park, and we love you.
Oh,
That's
I
great.
love that. Well, Larry, thank you so much. It's been so fun to have you on today. I really think that your perspective on, game preservation, of course, the kind of the business side of gaming and, bringing these legacy titles back to life is gives us kind of a valuable look at where the industry is headed and what's going on right now. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you both. You were wonderful hosts and a true pleasure.
Thank you. For everyone listening, if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to follow Game Changers, the Future of Play on Spotify or visit us online at sicuraqs.ai. We'll have some details in the caption as well. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.